Welcome back. George Bush is now approaching the end of his term, but the war in Iraq is far from over. And now US President-elect Barack Obama has the task of finishing the war that Bush started. Obama said he intends to end the war in Iraq responsibly, as he put it, by withdrawing the American troops in phases. He plans to increase stability in Iraq by launching an aggressive diplomatic effort. He also intends to address Iraq's refugee crisis. And finally, Obama wants to hand over the country to Iraqis. He said he's keen that they take responsibility for the future of Iraq and substantially spend their oil revenues on their own reconstruction. Well, still with us are our guests. In Baghdad, Mahmoud Osman. In Kansas City, Thomas McClanahan. And in Beirut, Amr Hamzawi. Mr. Osman, President-elect Barack Obama has spoken about the need for a phased troop withdrawal from Iraq. Is that the right way forward?
Well, I think President Obama, when he takes office, because he has never been with war in Iraq, and he has declared during his election campaign that he will withdraw Iraqi troops, combat troops from Iraq, American troops, as soon as he can. I think he will do that, and definitely he will try to implement this agreement between Iraq and the Americans. But I think he will, as he said, a responsible withdrawal. So he will consult his leaders on the ground. I hope he will consult the Iraqis, but I hope President Obama will care about investigating what has happened in Iraq in the last 6 years, the negative side, the positive sides, and because this is very important for American taxpayers and for Iraqi people. I hope he will open an investigation about all that happened, and Iraqis have suffered a lot. They need compensation from the United States. I hope President Obama will take care of this side also, not only the withdrawal.
Yeah, Mr. McClanahan, let me put that point to you. We heard Mr. Osman referring there to the status of forces agreement between Iraq and the US. But do you think negotiations over deadlines for US withdrawal are actually based on the situation on the ground in Iraq?
Well, under the status of forces agreement, the two parties can mutually agree to a schedule, but that's already setting the agreement. Withdrawal from the cities by June next year and completely within 3 years. If the two parties want to agree to something else, it's certainly within their power, but of course, in a mutually agreed situation, neither has total control over the outcome.
Mr. Hamzawi, how do you monitor
schedule is set in the agreement.
Security progress when it comes to security in Iraq? Because some say that, yes, Baghdad may be a little safer than it was a year ago, but that isn't really saying much with regards to Iraq because it's still so far from any normal standard. You still have kidnappings, ambushes, bombings on a daily basis.
It has been becoming less, however. So one has to recognize the fact that there have been real improvements on the ground with regard to the security situation in Iraq, and Iraqi citizens are seeing it. Iraqi refugees are seeing it. Some of them are returning back from Jordan and Syria. So those are definitely positive signs, which should not be underestimated or pushed aside. However, it's far from complete. It's far from being over. The struggle which has been going on in Iraq on a daily basis over the last years is most likely going to continue for some time until the authority of the Iraqi state is being re-established and its power to extend its authority to all Iraqi regions has been restored. So it's going to take some time, and I agree with the MP from Baghdad that it is needed that the Americans, the new administration, the Obama administration does not tackle the issue in a separate-minded or in a separate-oriented way. They need to listen to the Iraqis on the ground and take into consideration the status of forces agreement.
Do you agree with Mr. Hamzawi that there has been some improvement in the security situation in Iraq?
Yes, there has been a lot of improvement, but I think if this improvement in the security, which is evident, it's not accompanied by political reforms and reconciliation between different Iraqi groups, it may not last. There is no guarantee that it will last. So I hope Iraqi groups will work for reconciliation and also political reforms and economic reforms, offering services to people, tackling unemployment so that the situation will be solid and the security improvement will stay or be better.
Mr. McClanahan, part of the objective of the troop surge was to create a period of calm, to facilitate political reconciliation. Has that happened?
Well, Michael Yan, an independent correspondent who has his own website, recently returned from Iraq, a reporting tour there where he was with the 10th Mountain Division and reported that during the whole time he was there, none of them fired their weapons. I know I've seen reports that the Marines in Anbar province earlier were worried that they would not be qualified for their combat action ribbon because the enemy action had been so low in their sector. So you see these reports, and I think things are going to be iffy in Iraq for a long time, but the general trends are improving.
Mr. Othman, what about suspicion among Shia, Sunnis and Kurds, which fueled the war after 2003? Do those suspicions still run deep?
Well, I think it's less, definitely. It was deep during 2006, 2007. But now it's much better this year, and I think next year it will be better. But at the same time, I think if the political forces and the people who are running this country, I mean the Iraqis, if they go and get together, solve their problems, and try to reach a consensus, a real consensus, according to the document which we approved in Parliament with the SOFA agreement, I think there will not be a correct situation, and there will be more suffering. I think there is lack of confidence or weak confidence in between the groups, in between the blocs, and I think they should work together so that they will deal with this issue and try to work together to run the country in a way that will be as democratic and as serving the people as possible.
Well, let me put that to Mr. McClanahan. In late 2006, the Iraq Study Group recommended that US support for the Iraqi government be made conditional, linked to progress on matters like reconciliation. Do you think Barack Obama will adopt that strategy?
Barack Obama has undergone quite an evolution on Iraq. As recently as June of this year, he was saying the surge troops should be withdrawn, not in 6 months, not in a year, but immediately. More recently has said that we should withdraw responsibly. So I think he is going to implement the status of forces agreement and withdraw the troops from the cities and by June of next year, and within 3 years as per that schedule. Earlier, or last month, we're talking about withdrawal schedule. There's also a practical matter. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff said that it would take 2 or 3 years, even if the order was given today, it would take 2 or 3 years to withdraw all the forces from Iraq anyway.
So, Mr. Hamzawi, is the deadline currently mandated by the Status of Forces Agreement, is that realistic?
It is. It is. 3 years is a realistic time frame, keeping in mind that we are looking at a gradual process of withdrawing, minimizing the number of American troops operating in Iraq. So it is feasible, and I guess Obama administration is going to try to stick to it. However, one has to draw attention to the fact that the U.S. needs regional support as well. I mean, we should not forget that it's not simply the U.S. which is powerful in Iraq or has its cards. Iran has its cards in Iraq as well. And any future step with regard to how to manage the American presence, military presence in Iraq, will have to be negotiated one way or another with regional powers, primarily with the Iranians.
Yeah, let me put that point to you, Mr. Othman, on the issue of regional powers. Does the Obama administration need to engage with countries like Iran, like Syria, to see real, sustained, long-term improvement in Iraq?
Yes, I think the animosity between President Bush, I mean the Bush administration, Iran and Syria, did cost Iraqi people. That conflict we suffered from. So I think if there is if they open a dialogue or something with these two countries by President Obama and his administration, I think that will help Iraqi people, because we will not have much conflicts on our soil and we will be less suffering.
Okay, well, on that note, gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for joining us. In Baghdad, Mahmoud Othman; in Kansas City, Thomas McClanahan; and in Beirut, Amr Hamzawi. And thank you so much for joining us here on this edition of Inside Story. We welcome your comments and suggestions. Please email them to us at insidestory@aljazeera.net. Bye for now.